Amen. Good. Come on, are you excited, guys? Yes. All right. Thank you guys for coming, and I welcome you guys that are joining us by way of video, small groups. So, you may be sitting in a living room somewhere or a coffee shop. I don't know where you are, but you're watching a room full of guys that I'm just going to teach how to become model men. I started playing golf years ago. Somebody gave me some clubs a few years ago, and I learned that as I watch videos and see guys swing, I actually improve just watching a model. And guys, what really came into my mind is about how Christianity is connected through modeling. And we often think it's about teaching and it's about church and all, and it is, but it's more about finding a model, somebody that really, really swings just right. Everybody's looking for that model. I laughed years ago about a professor who had long hair, a Bible college professor, and he'd preach and he would sling his hair back. And everybody get excited. He'd sling his hair back. Well, years later, you could still see his students, when they get excited, they would sling their hair back. Hey, the funny thing, one guy was bald-headed. He'd sling his head back. Everybody's looking for a model. And I'm thinking about the word in the Greek tupos that Paul said to Timothy, be a model. What that really means is a stamp. Like if you go to the post office, they impress a seal upon an envelope, and that stamp's got to be correct. Can you imagine if that stamp was misspelled? And every letter was stamped with a misspelled word. That would be horrible. You would have to stop the whole post office and say, wait, let's get that stamp. Let's fix it. Let's repair the stamp, the press, the model, and then you can stamp thousands of letters and it's okay. Well, that stamp is you. Your life is being stamped upon maybe a family or a business or a community, or you might be stamped on the whole world. Who knows? So these 6 small group sessions are just to let God reach inside of you, and maybe it's just one little thing. Or it might be 10 things. It might be your money, might be your family, might be your pace, might be your discipline, might be your purpose, might be your kids. I don't know. I'm going to cover so many things in this 6-week series, but you got to let God work in you. Wherever you guys are watching this, you guys here in the room, say, Lord, change me. Now, I'm going to start with the very first thing, integrity. Because this is a series about integrity to legacy. The end of this series is going to be about your legacy. But if you don't get all the things in between right, if you don't let God change all of those misspelled punctuations and things in your model, then you'll never have a legacy. You'll just die, and a few people will come to your funeral, and that's going to be the end. So we change that by starting with the word integrity. I look at the Bible. So many people in the Bible had integrity. Job had integrity. The devil had to challenge his integrity. Abraham had integrity. Of course, Daniel, who had more integrity than Daniel to refuse Belshazzar's gifts, no negligence, no corruption, and on we could go, because the Bible says a good name is more desirable than riches. Now, let me talk to you about your integrity, because this really kind of boils down to 3 things, okay? If I could, and there's a lot about it, but let's just, in the short period of time we have together, let's look at these 3 things. Now, the first thing that we could say about integrity is it has to do with telling the truth. Telling the truth. When we tell the truth, we're really stepping into the realm of integrity. And I'm not talking about a half-truth or an exaggeration. When you go into a court of law, they put your hand on a Bible and they say, do you promise to tell help me out now, the truth? Now, do they stop there? No. What else do they say? The whole truth. And then what else do they say? Nothing but the truth. And I often wonder, why don't they just say, do you promise to tell the truth? And that's because we figured out so many ways to lie. You know, when they say you promise to tell the truth, okay, the whole truth. That means if you tell a half truth, if I don't give you all the facts about something, then I'm deceiving you. I left out some vital information that gave you a completely wrong impression. And then if it says, and nothing but the truth. If I get on that witness stand and I only tell, not only do I withhold information, but I exaggerate information. I embellish the story like, yeah, then I saw him whack her head off. And then and I'm making all these exaggerations. That's a lie too. Just the facts is all we need. Integrity is about the truth. You don't tell half the truth. You don't give more than is the truth. That's the funny thing about it. Years ago, I heard about a politician close by here. He was going on and on about all of his accomplishments, and he was exaggerating. And a guy raised his hand in the back, and he called on him. He said, "Excuse me, sir, do you have any bread to go with that bologna?" You know, people know when the truth is being stretched. I love Billy Graham. Billy Graham would never tell one person more who was in a stadium than was actually there, or one person more who came to the altar than actually responded. So you got to tell the truth, brothers. And that means even to your wife. Sometimes that's hard. Let's say that she gave you the job of paying the utility bill for a month. And you got it, no problem. But you stuck it in your shirt pocket and forgot it. And a month goes by and you and her are sitting at the table eating, and suddenly the lights go off in the house. It's pitch black. And you're thinking to yourself immediately, I forgot to pay that bill. Well, if you know that's the case, don't get up and grab a flashlight and go to the breaker can and act like there's a problem with the electricity. You know the problem. You forgot to pay the bill. So you look her in the face. You say, "Sweetheart, that bill is in my shirt pocket. I totally forgot to pay it. But you know what? I'm heading in my truck right now. I'm going down to pay that bill. I'm going to take care of it." You say, "Well, that would be embarrassing to me." But here's what I've learned about embarrassment. It lasts about 30 seconds. When you tell the truth, it's over in 30 seconds. You say, "But I don't know if I could do that or not with my wife." But you know what you need to do, brother? You need to go down to the hardware store, get a ladder, help me out, and get over it. That's right. Get over it. You need to tell your employer, if you forgot an assignment, don't blame other people. Just say, "You know what? I blew that one. I blew that one." I have employed many people. I have many employees for years. If a man would tell me, "I forgot to do that. I'm going to go take care of that," I knew I could trust that man. But when a guy's doing this, it makes me wonder whether I really ought to be working alongside him. So when I talk about integrity, number one, he tells the truth. Let's look at the second one real quick. Second one is he keeps his word. These are basic integrity. Basic integrity, number one, you just tell the truth. You don't lie for anyone. You hold to principles and standards more than people. You just tell the truth. Secondly, you keep your word. Now, I know that for our generation, this is a weird little doctrine I'm about to tell you. But your word is your bond. The Bible says that the Lord let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. That means that Samuel never said something that he did not fulfill. God is a God who fulfills his promises. Isn't that right? He says it. We count on it. We trust him completely. Well, your word's got to be like that. I've been pastoring here 28 years. And every time I said something from the pulpit, I knew I had to fulfill that thing. Every time. I couldn't just kind of let it go away. I had to address it. I had to fulfill my word, or no one would have looked to me as a model. So I had to start listening to the things I said. Little things like, "I'll call you later today." Well, that just came out of my mouth. So you know what? I've got to call that guy. It's not an option anymore. It's a mandate for me. Or your wife, I'll be home at 5 o'clock for dinner, and 6 o'clock you come rolling in, and she's put it in the oven twice and all that. And after a while, your wife begins to wonder, can I trust what my husband says? It's little things. It's a customer that you say, if that doesn't work for you, I'll take it back. And it's your word. My grandfather, I was told, borrowed money on a handshake, looking a man in the eye. Because in those days, you would never give your word and break it. But today, to borrow money, you have to mortgage your firstborn son almost. Because they don't trust us. No one trusts anyone today because even politicians and people everywhere have said things, but then they've not maintained those. Years ago, I heard a story about a friend of mine, Billy Joe Daugherty, who's in heaven now. He was doing a Russia crusade every month in St. Petersburg. And on one of those crusades, when he got there, he saw a handbill advertisement for it, but it had something different at the bottom. And he asked his director, what's that at the bottom? It says, it's a concert that we were going to hold in the big stadium. He said, but we had to cancel it. He said, why? He said, well, the singer broke his leg in America. He can't come. He said, well, how many of these handbills went out? He said, 100,000. He said, Terry, we're going to have a concert. He said, but sir, I already canceled the stadium, the sound system. I don't have any singers. He said, well, Terry, you're going to reinstate the stadium and the sound system, and you're going to sing, Terry, you're going to sing. He said, but sir, how are we going to do that? He said, I don't know, but that's our integrity on the bottom of that sheet. Well, he went on and went back to America, and the Saturday night came, and this particular guy had reinstated everything, and he drove up to the stadium, and he thought, well, there's nobody here. It was quiet. But when he parted the curtains, there were 8,000 people sitting there who did not get the word that that concert was canceled. Terry got up with a couple of backup singers and sang the best he could and preached the gospel. And 300 people came forward for salvation that night. Yeah. You know why? Because of integrity. Tell the truth, keep your word. And the last one, you pay your bills. You know, finances show your integrity really about more than anything. Now, in our 50 years as a church, we've not been late on a bill or a payment or anything. I'm talking about to the little lady that blows up our balloons for children's church, the guy that sweeps the parking lot. He gets paid. You know, years ago, I was invited to the local TV station. They own the newspaper. They have no Christian programming. And I had been on that station for about 20 years with a little 2-minute program. And they invited me to come to a luncheon. Well, I was a little concerned, actually, because when TV stations invite you to come, it's usually not a good thing, you know. So we ate kind of awkwardly, and we small talked, and then the president of the TV station, who owns the newspaper, looked at me and he said, Reverend, he said, I guess you're wondering why we have you here today. I said, well, actually, I am. I had a couple guys with me. And he said, we've done checking on all of our accounts. And said, in all the years that you've been our customer, you have never been late on a payment to us. And you're the only customer we have in the city of Baton Rouge that's done that. And we thought we would just bring you here and honor you for paying your bills every month. I said, whew. Yeah. Now, guys, I didn't know that Channel 2 was keeping track of my payments that carefully, but they were. People in your community know if you pay your bills. And I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm talking to the guys watching this now. When you pay your bills, when you handle money correctly, that is integrity. And little things like taxes. Nobody likes to pay taxes. I had to write a check to the IRS just a few weeks ago. It just burned me up to have to do it. But you know what? If I get upset about it, I have to go to Washington and challenge it. I can't withhold my taxes and hide and deceive. because I owe that. It's integrity. Paul said in Romans 12 to pay taxes to whom taxes is due. And then the tithe is the Lord's. I learned that years ago that it belongs to the Lord. I'm not giving it to him. It belongs to him. Wayne Myers, the great missionary in Mexico, was riding in Mexico mountains with a group of pastors. And he was talking to him about tithing. He said, by the way, all you guys tithe, don't you? And one pastor said, no, I don't tithe. Wayne said, stop the car, stop the car. He said, let me get out. The guy says, well, Wayne, you can't get out in these mountains. There's robbers, there's thieves everywhere here. He said, I'd much rather take my chances being with people who will rob man than being in the car with a man who would rob God. See, we talk about integrity. It's really about how I handle my money in private. It's about faithfulness to my company. You know, years ago, one of my members had an appliance break at his house. And it's just a little bolt. Well, when he got to work, he worked for AT&T. They had a whole barrel full of those bolts, the exact size he needed. He just picked one up, dropped it in his pocket. I mean, a little bolt. On the way home, the Lord spoke to him and said, are you going to sacrifice your whole integrity for a 10-cent bolt? He pulled into the next hardware station right there by our North Campus, and he went and bought that bolt for 10 cents. The next day, he brought the companies back and dropped it back in the barrel. You see, we're talking about little things. If you want to be a model, you have to let the Lord deal with even that neighbor's hoe that's in your garage that you borrowed 5 years ago. Well, you know what? That's his. You got to bring that thing back. And then you have to learn to handle funds correctly. I've handled millions of dollars as a church through the 28 years I pastored, 50 years we've been a church. And I remember when we had our second hurricane, not Katrina, but a second one where here in Baton Rouge, the power went out for a week. Many people were affected, and churches all over America and individuals sent us money to disperse to those who had problems. Well, after about 6 months had gone by, we had spent the whole fund except $25,000. You know, the needs were gone. People's needs had been met. They'd gone back to normal. We had no more needs that we could legitimately find. So we had $25,000 in the account. And my secretary came and says, what are we going to do with this $25,000 in the hurricane fund? I remembered that a man who was a billionaire, a friend of mine, had sent us a check for $25,000. So I said, well, why don't we just send his money back, and I'll write a letter, and I did, explaining that we had met every need that we could find, and we were returning his money, thanking him. About a week later, I got a letter from this man. And he said, in all my years of philanthropy, I have never had anyone return money to me. He said, because of that integrity, there'll be a lot more money for any project you ever request me to be involved in. You see the connection? Integrity builds influence. And I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know if it's with your marriage, with your finances, with your business, with your company, with your word that you gave to somebody. I don't know. But what I'd like you guys that are in the small group there and you guys here in my audience, what I'd like you to do is just take several minutes to discuss these huge issues of telling the truth, keeping your word, and handling your money correctly. Would you go ahead and do that right now? God bless you. We'll see you guys next week at your small group.